Morning, guys. Welcome to the current affairs session, where I'll be discussing all of the important topics that are necessary for UPSC, be it for prelims or be it for mains. Yeah. Without any further ado, let us start with this particular current affairs session. Right. Firstly, we have obviously something about the elections. So there's no need for us to take care of it. I mean, read about it because everything is polity rather than being politics. Right. We have this particular editorial says building bridges. Right, it says building bridges. It's talking about battery storage capacity. You must keep in pace. Battery storage capacity must keep pace with solar energy generation, is what this particular editorial is talking. Right. Firstly, the reason we are talking about this is because of the solar energy demand. Right, solar energy demand. We know that we have been focusing more on solar energy nowadays, and the amount of solar energy that we are generating is very high, and the demand has actually risen from 15% to 28%. Right, the solar energy installed capacity has nearly doubled from 15% to 28% in 2026. That is what the particular editorial is saying. Whenever you're actually reading these kind of editorials, right, keep these stats in your mind: 15% to 28% by 2026, because these kind of stats can be important when it comes to mains, right? So 15% to 28% is the amount of what you call still electricity capacity that has risen in India. But what you need to keep in mind is that solar energy depends on the sunlight, right? Whenever there is high amount of sunlight, there is high amount of solar energy. But whenever there is low amount of sunlight, what happens? There is low amount of solar energy. So during the daytimes, the solar energy is at its peak, meaning that we are meeting the solar energy demand during the daytime. And during the daytime, we can ensure that everything is being met. And 25, like something around like this, 29.5% of the demand is being met. Right, 29.5% of the demand is being met from the solar energy during the daytime. But what you need to keep in mind is that, as I was saying, solar energy depends on sunlight, and as long as the sunlight is not there, solar energy is not dependent at all. So during the night time, right, during the night time, the solar energy demand is nearly 0.1%. Obviously, because sunlight is not there. But that is not the problem. The main problem is that there is lack of storage facilities. Right? At the end of the day, even if you want to do something, if you are storing wind energy, you are storing solar energy or hydel energy or tidal energy, whatever you're doing, at the end of the day, you need to store it. As long as you store it, everything is fine. If you don't store it, that is a problem. Because let's say solar energy is there during the high sun time, during the summer solstice, or during summer solstice. When is the summer solstice? It is on June 21st. So on June 21st, if the summer solstice is there, there's high amount of solar energy coming in. So at that time, we can actually store a lot of amount of energy. But in order to store a lot of energy, we need batteries. India lacks that. That is the reason all of the amount of energy that is being brought in is being wasted, right? It says that nearly how much it says that nearly 2.3 tetrawatt hours, right? 2.3 tetrawatt hours of solar energy was wasted in 2025 just because we lacked storage facilities. Right? It's saying what? It's saying that just because we lacked storage facilities, we wasted around 2.3 tetrawatt hours. What does it say? It says that storage facilities are very important. So whenever storage facilities are very important, you need to focus a lot on these, because we tried to shift away from fossil fuels. We are moving towards wind energy. We are moving towards solar energy. All of the renewable energies we are moving towards, and we are also building nuclear energy, right? But at the end of the day, if you do not store it, nothing will happen, and all of the energy that has been built up or generated will be lost. That is what is happening now. 2.3 tetrawatt hours is too much. That too in 2025 itself. Right? There are many countries which are energy starving, but we, with high amount of energy and high amount of energy generating capacity, we are wasting all of the energy that is generated. Now, why is this serious? The reason it is serious because uh, states are beginning to stop producing solar energy, right? States are beginning to stop producing solar energy because a lot of energy is not being met and a lot of energy is being wasted. As a lot of energy is being wasted, instead of wasting a lot of money, let us put this money in somewhere else. That is what the states are thinking. If states stop producing much of the electricity, meaning the use of solar panels, our dependence on solar energy will also decrease. What will happen? Our dependence on energy like crude oil, fossil fuels like coals, all of this will increase. Then, as we are highly import dependent on all of these, our import dependence will increase further. And what will happen at the end of the day? Hmm? Crisis like Iran, UAE, and USA's war will actually lead to a price hike in India. These are the kind of repercussions that these kind of aspects have. We think that just solar energy, not storage, like not storing all of the energy that was actually generated, would ensure that this would happen. But not storing will actually cause a greater damage than just generating, right? So first thing is that states are stopping. States are stopping the production. Right? States are stopping the production. Then the other thing is that government is still paying for the unused electricity. As I told you that 2.5 tetrawatt hours have been wasted, but someone has to pay for the 2.5 tetrawatt hours for generating, right? Right? Just because something has been generated and not used doesn't mean that government has to stop paying. Government has to pay for it. Right? There are many schemes where government is paying all the households for generating electricity, and whenever there is generation of electricity, government has to pay for it. As 2.5 tetrawatt hours have been generated, government has to still pay for it, and that is nothing but loss because it is not being used. There is no extra income. It is only a liability. So first thing is that states have stopped producing solar energy. Second thing is that government has to still pay for the unmet demand, right, or the unused electricity, and that the demand is rising, right? The third aspect is that demand is rising, but is not meeting the nighttime or the evening demand, right? The solar energy that is used to meet the energy at the morning time or the daytime, but at the night time when it comes, it is not being met because, again, lack of storage facilities. So this is what this shows is that this shows a what you call a loophole or a bottleneck that India has when it comes to solar energy capacity or and when it comes to renewable energy, be it solar, be it wind, be it tidal. At the end of the day, everything is generating energy. It will be useful, right? What happens if there is high amount of supply? The demand will, what's it mean? Well, the prices will fall. So if actually we are generating high amount of energy, let us use it in some aspects where what do you call the prices are high, right? Where the generation of electricity is being used high. So that way we are at least not ensuring that all of the energy that is being generated is being wasted. Right? That is the main motto for us. Right? What we are generating should be used. Otherwise, it will be a waste of time, money, and capacity. Everything is a waste of time. Right? In order to do that, firstly, we need to ensure that we are building storage facilities. So this is what this particular editor is saying. It's talking about storage facilities. Storage facilities for renewable energy. As long as there is storage facilities, we'll ensure that everything is right and everything is good, right? Next, moving on, the expansion of high-end frigates. It's talking about frigates. Frigates are nothing but military ships, like they're very big ships. I'll show you if possible. These are nothing but frigates, if you can see here. Can you see this? This is a frigate. I don't know if this is visible or not. This is a frigate. Okay, these are usually used for attacking. Right, they are on the water. They are not submarines. You can see that they are not submarines. They attack. Right, they attack and they carry helicopters and they carry ships. Right, I mean sorry, small boats, and they also carry weapons. Because whenever there is any attacks that is air-based or water-based, you can use frigates to attack them. Right. So India has been building frigates. Right. We have certain classes of frigates in India. Right, we have certain classes. One is the Shivalik class. Shivalik class frigate, which is known as 17th class. Then you have Nilgiri class. Nilgiri class, which is known as 17A or Project 17A. Then you have Talwar class. Talwar class is nothing but the frigates that were built by the Russians. So if you see here, Shivalik and Nilgiri class were indigenously built, whereas Talwar class is Russian built. Similarly, you have Tushil class, which is also Russian built, and that has been modified. Nothing but it is the Talwar class that has been modified by the Russians. Is nothing but Tushil class. Okay, now we have four types of classes. One is Shivalik class, which is known as Project 17. Then you have what do you call Nilgiri class, which is Project 17A. Then Talwar class, which is a Russian-built frigate, and lastly you have Tushil class, which is a modified version of the Russian Talwar class. So that is nothing but these are the four types of frigates. Now, what is the problem with these frigates? The main problem with the frigates is that on paper we are saying that everything is fine, everything is done. We are saying that Talwar class has been done. We are saying that the Nilgiri class has been done. All of the frigates that have been made under the Nilgiri class have been submission and they are done and we can use them readily. That is what everything is on paper. But that is not the reality. The editorial says that everything is done on the paper only, but nothing is the reality. He says that while everything is done on the paper, there are some aspects where engine is not fine, or the sensors are not fine, or the missiles are not fine. There is some problem with some frigate. When there is some problem with some frigate, how can the government of India declare that they have been done and they are ready for commission? You cannot, because at the end of the day, if there is war, if there is a warlike situation, you cannot use these kind of frigates, because India depends not only India, but any country depends on defense. If the defense system or the main frigate is not working properly, then how can you use them for defense? Then how can you say that it has been commissioned? Right? You cannot say that. That is what this particular editorial is saying. Right? This editorial is saying that 75% of the ships that are made in India, right? It says that Project 17A used 75% of indigenous components. Right? Saying that 75% of Project 17A. Project 17A is nothing but Nilgiri class. Nilgiri class. It's saying that 75% of the components are indigenous components, meaning that 25% are imported. Now, this 25% imported components is a problem, because the main aspects or the core components that are required for the building of the frigates are imported. Let's say the engine or the sensors or the radars or the anything that is required for that particular frigate, which is critical in nature, is being imported. All the small aspects that have been used for building the frigate have been indigenous. But at the end of the day, the machine only works if the engine is right. If the engine is right, there's no use of that particular output body. Right? So that is what it's saying. 75% indigenous, 25% import. And this 25% import is either caused by delay or some problem with the particular engine or the parts of that engine, or payment delays. All of these issues led to the delay of making the particular frigate ready. Right? But what you need to understand is that India, after the 2008 Mumbai attacks, started to categorize or analyze its defense security. And when it started to analyze, it started to tell that we need to build a security system in such a way that it is, one, detecting, two, deciding, and three, responding. Right? What is detecting? Detecting whether there is a particular threat or not. Let's say there is Indian Ocean, and in the Indian Ocean we have some Chinese Navy or some ships going in. Whenever the ships are Chinese submarines are going on, we have to detect whether that particular ship is actually a threat or not, or is it just a passway. Right? We never know that. But first thing, we have to decide it. In order to decide it, we need to detect it first, right? Then you have to respond by saying that we are going to attack if you do not move out of this particular area as it is our territorial water. But in order to detect, you need radars, you need sonar, which are the critical components. What I was saying just now, all the critical components are being imported. Without all the critical components, there's no three-step process. You cannot detect it all. As long as there's no sonar, as long as there's no radar, you cannot detect. And as long as you cannot detect, you cannot decide. And as long as you cannot decide, cannot respond. So our whole defense mechanism, or our whole three-step process of deciding whether there is a threat or not, is being failed mainly because we are 25% import dependent on the critical components. That is what this editorial is saying. This editorial is saying that we are building all of this. We are building the frigate class. We are glorifying everything. Obviously, we need to glorify, right? We need to glorify, and we need to think that our India is the top, right? But at the end of the day, we need to do that only when everything is right. You cannot just imagine things, right? If nothing is going right in India, how can you imagine that India is great? Similarly, if the defense system is not that proper, how can you imagine that India's defense system is great? Right? We can do that, but that is lying to ourselves and lying to the country. Right? Frigates, that is what you need to keep in mind. Yeah. And the other aspect that this particular editorial is talking about is that, okay, now the critical components such as radar and sonar are missing, but still we can use it for some aspects, right? Like some drones that are flying. But what you need to understand is that frigate is very big. Can you see here? The frigate is very big. Will you use this particular frigate to bring down drones? Right? We built it using crores and crores of rupees, and we are using that particular frigate to bring down drones which are made in lakhs. What does that say? It says that India, the frigates are too small, too large for those small targets, and it is very, it's not, as it lacks all the critical component, it is too small against all the critical issues, right? First thing is that it cannot attack drones, because that is obviously, it can attack drones, but then again, there's no use because this is a very big frigate, and using it to take down drones is actually a small thing, and it's not good for countries like India, which is using big frigates to bring down what do you call drones, and it is not effective enough, right? But the frigates are not effective enough to bring down the big threats, right? It is effective enough to bring down the small threats, but it's not effective enough to bring down big threats. But what are the frigates made for? They are mainly made for big threats. They are not made for small threats at all, right? So that is why this is a big issue for India. Next, how bulldozer justice undermines the law. Now, this particular editorial is talking about bulldozer justice. Bulldozer justice is nothing but where a particular justice is done by bulldozing of the houses. This mainly happened in Uttar Pradesh, where CM Yogi Adityanath started to bulldoze all of the houses, and those houses are mainly those houses who are actually said to have done the crime, right? For example, let's say X person is there, and X person is convicted of a crime, not convicted, but is on trial, right? Let's say that person is on trial, and that many people believe that that person has done some crime or has done something that is very bad. What they'll do, Yogi Adityanath will come and bulldoze this particular person's house. It's nothing but justice, right? It is his kind of justice that is known as bulldozer justice, right? Recently, a small kid came and gave Yogi Adityanath a particular toy, a replica of bulldozer, right? While that is actually cute, but it is very alarming. It's saying that it's indirectly thanking, the kid was indirectly thanking Yogi Adityanath for bulldozing all of the houses of the criminals that have committed the crimes. What does it say? That says that the executive or the government is trying to take over the justice. But what do we have? We have separation of powers. Separation of powers meaning that we have a separation between judiciary, executive, and what? Legislature. We also have Article 50. What does Article 50 say? Article 50 says that we need to separate the judiciary from the executive. That is the main purpose of constitution at all. And constitution is providing limits of the government. And in Article 50, it says that what? The judiciary needs to be separate from the executive, meaning that they both should not be in the same aspect. But here, if you see here, the government is taking all the matters into its hands and proving a person as wrong or judging a person based on something that they did or did not commit. Let's say that person committed, but at the end of the day, who's to decide? Judiciary is to decide, not the government. But if these kind of happen, if these kind of things happen, what will happen is that people will stop trusting, right? They'll stop trusting the judiciary. Now, why are these things these things are happening? The reason these things are happening is because there is a delay. There is a delay in justice. Obviously, there are many courts. I mean, there are many cases. There are nearly 5.5 crore plus pending cases in Uttar Pradesh. While there are 5.5 crore plus pending cases in Uttar Pradesh, the number of judges in Uttar Pradesh are very low. Due to this, there is high amount of pending justice. And in order to reduce that pending justice, government is taking these kind of aspects and people are actually supporting. What happens if people support these kind of things? Obviously, judiciary will be weakened. It is like undermining judiciary because you cannot do something. That is why the government is taking it into its own hands. But that is not how the India will work. India works on three prongs. One is the judiciary, one is the legislative, one is the executive. Only if they do their own jobs, then everything is fine. Otherwise, there is complete monopoly or monarchy of particular organ, right? There shouldn't be any monopoly of any organ. As long as there is no monopoly, there is harmony between these three organs, right? So that is what this article is saying. This article is saying that the government is taking over justice, where it is bulldozing all the people's houses who have been either committed or on trial for crime. Right? And the only solution for these kind of aspects is that you need to bring in more judges. That's it, nothing else. Right? The only problem was that as there is lack of judges, there is high amount of pending cases. As there is high amount of pending cases, government has taken it into its hands. So the core problem is judges only. If you bring in more judges, if you bring in more aspects, what will happen? You can do it, right? So that is the core problem. It is saying, it is talking about. It's talking about bulldozer justice, where everything is done in the lack of judges, right? So yeah, next, moving on. Renewable energy meets global electricity demand for the first time. And it's saying that renewable energy meets global electricity demand for the first time, meaning that for the first time in all of these years, the global electricity demand is met through the renewable energy and not through fossil fuels or coal. That is actually a very big step forward, because now we are not depending on coal that much. Because if you look at 10 years behind, if you, let's say, if you look at 2016 or 2017, many people wouldn't have thought about using renewable energy at all. Now the usage of renewable energy is increasing, right? It's rapidly increasing. As it rapidly increasing, it is very good for the environment, because there is a lot of pollution, sulfur oxides, nitrous oxides, which is actually causing a lot of global warming. If you can see that country India has witnessed high amount of heat wave, right? Why is the heat wave there? Because a lot of pollution, and all of this pollution is coming from what? Coal generation, power plants, vehicles, right? All of these is where the high amount of global warming is coming from. So if you actually move away from the fossil fuels, we would reduce our dependencies on electricities like the air conditioners or coolers, which actually generate high amount of HFCs, and PFCs, which have a high potential of global warming, right? So as the renewable energy of the global electricity demand was met for the first time, now let us look at what India's stance is, right? Let us first see China is there, right? China has shifted away from fossil fuels in 2015, right? and it has grown its solar energy needs by 40% since then. Right? It has grown its solar energy by 40%. When it comes to India, India also has changed. India also has brought in many schemes. Let's say there is Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, right? Then these are all the schemes that were there, right? And while they were there, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana is about LPG, I guess. I guess there's a scheme called Ujjwala Yojana, which is mainly about solar panels, right? There's a scheme about solar panels where households are given an opportunity where they can install solar panels and they're given money for all of the energy demand that they have met. Okay, so India has moved away from all of that, but and India's renewable energy is also growing at a rapid pace. Right? Everything is going fine, but there came a bottleneck, and that bottleneck is nothing but the war that happened between Iran, Israel, and USA. As there was a war between Iran, Israel, and USA, there was a what you call obstruction at the Strait of Hormuz. And Strait of Hormuz is very important for India. Why? Because all of the import of crude oil or majority of the import of crude oil or LNG, all of these come from Strait of Hormuz. Right? India nearly imports 89% of what you call oil and 45% of gas and nearly 26 to 28% of coal. Right? India imports 89% of oil, 45% of gas, and nearly 26 to 28% of coal. As there was a blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, there was a high price rise in the petroleum, the LNG, and also the coal that we've been using for powering the power plants. Okay, as all of that has increased, that has clearly shown one fact that India is there, right? India is still dependent on all of these. And that was clearly shown from what? This particular attack or the particular war between USA, Israel, and Iran. It shows that despite the world going towards the renewable energy, India is still stuck near the imports because while all of the energy or all of the solar energy or the wind energy or the tidal energy, all of these are growing, but they are not growing fast enough to meet all the demands, meaning that they are good enough for long term. Right? Everything is happening for long term. Let's say in 10 years down the lane, if there is something that is happening like this, India would have tackled it. But it is still not tackling it because it's still growing. So in short term, it is very risky, and short term, it is prone to attacks. Right? It is prone to all of these minor global events that have been happening. Right? India is still prone to short term what you call crises, but in the long term, it can actually plan. But what we need is that we never know what kind of situation comes at what time. We didn't expect US and Iran to fight. Right? Did we expect Iran and US to fight? No. You never know when these kind of things come. For these kind of things to come and be unprepared is very haphazard and very dangerous for countries like India, because we are actually growing now. As we are growing, what will happen? We need to focus a lot on growth only, and that growth is hindered by mainly these things. Now that LPG has increased, now that petroleum has increased, all of the production will increase, and whenever the production will, with the price of the products will increase, what will happen? Inflation is there. You know that there is a trade-off between growth and inflation. Whenever there is growth, there is high amount of inflation, but this inflation is not related to growth. This inflation is related to global events. So that way, growth is not there at all. At this time, we need growth much more than any other country, because we are already a global power. We need to become a superpower. In order to become a superpower, we need to focus a lot on what? These kind of aspects. You should be very stable. Right? That is why countries like USA, China, and all of these are superpowers. Why? Because if any global event is happening, they are very stable. And we should be in a position, we should also be in a such position where any global event is happening or anything that has happened should not disrupt India's production or India's growth. It should be very stable. So that is what this particular editorial is saying, that renewable energy meets global electricity demand for the first time. But despite the rapid renewable energy capacity growth, India's dependence on fossil fuel is shown from the West Asia. Yeah. So we need to ensure or fasten the process of what you call growth in the renewable energy sector as fast as we can do, because If you've seen in the first article, I was talking about storage facilities. As we lacked storage facilities, we lost near 2.3 tetrawatt hours. Imagine other countries like China, USA, what are they doing? They're building batteries, they are focusing more on storage. We are not doing that at all. We need to do that, right? So that is what this particular editorial is talking about, right? And that's it for today's newspaper analysis. Thank you guys. Meet you guys tomorrow.